What's up, everybody? It's me, Nick Smith. I am dressing up as Spider-Man. And there's only one reason for that. Why is that? Because I'm doing my review of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. How do you like the theme? Yes, I'm using the old theme of The Amazing Spider-Man, the animated series. So, yes, I am doing this review dressed as Spider-Man. I know, nostalgic, right? Stupid poster. But yes, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Phenomenal Views. I am your host, Nick Smith, and this is my review of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, before I kick off this review, I just want to say, I do not hate the Sam Raimi series. I personally like this series a little bit better. But when it comes to the first Amazing Spider-Man, it was awesome. Sequel, I liked it, but there were some things that disappointed me about it. You know, before I watched it, I tried to stay away from reviews as good as possible. But I ended up watching Filmmaster Adam. Now, if you all know me, you know I love Filmmaster Adam. He's the reason why I am reviewing films today. Thank you. But when I watched his review, he said that this film is all plot and no story. And now, as much as I love Filmmaster Adam, I kind of agree, but I also kind of disagree. In this film, this is the continuance of the first Amazing Spider-Man. They do not mention the first suit at all. The only real reference we get to the very first Amazing Spider-Man suit is in the beginning of the film. Actually, early on in the film, like not the film begins showing about like Peter's parents, kind of like the beginning of the first movie. But instead of it showing it through Peter's eyes, like how it did in the first film, it's showing it through his dad's eyes. His dad is making a blog about the stuff that he did at Oscorp and how he's actually been betrayed by his friend. And so he's like, people may consider me a monster. Maybe they're right. But then all of a sudden we hear Peter calling, and then they realize their house has been broken into, and that's when they have to take Peter and leave him. So then we actually get more of Peter's parents in their plane about a project called crap, what was it? It was a project about that was named after one of the presidents. Project Roosevelt, I think is what. Yeah, Project Roosevelt. And when they're in the plane, the flight attendant comes by and he's like, "You alright? Can I get you anything?" Basically all that other stuff. But then he notices that the pilot is washing blood off his hands, and then it's all of a sudden, oh crap, this guy's here to kill me. So basically, yeah, this is how Peter's parents die in this movie. They get taken out by a pilot, but the dad kills the pilot. Not the pilot. The dad kills the other pilot that killed the real pilot, and his wife gets shot. So he straps her into the chair, and he makes sure that all of his research is uploaded, so that way if anyone needs to look at it, it can be viewed from the future, and their plane crashes. Then we get the beginning of the film. If you've seen the very first Amazing Spider-Man 2 trailer, it's showing him falling from the sky and like swinging through the city and everything. That's what this film starts out as, and it's awesome. He's like, "What do you got for me today, New York?" And so he's chasing after the Rhino. I don't actually know his name in this series. It's something German or Russian or whatever. But he's not the Rhino yet. He's in a truck with all this like plutonium or something. And he's like, "Hi, my name's Spider-Man. You can call me amazing, spectacular. Just don't call me late for dinner." And then, like, you know, all the dialogue that Spider-Man has in this film is hilarious. This is what Spider-Man should have been in the Sam Raimi films. No offense to Tobey Maguire. But in this one, Spider-Man is a smart aleck. He cracks jokes. He messes with his opponent's head. It's so funny. And this is a lot of Andrew Garfield's dialogue. A lot of Spider-Man's dialogue is his own, and it really shows on how far of an actor Andrew Garfield has really become. So, as he's doing this whole thing with the Rhino, all of a sudden he gets a call, and his cell phone ringtone, it is the old Amazing Spider-Man theme. Da-da-da, 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 da-da-da-da, you know, that. So, Gwen's talking to him, and Gwen's in her graduation stuff, and she's like, You're late. I know, I just had to make a couple, a run by. Is that sirens? No. Peter. And so, she knows, of course she knows he's Spider-Man, but there's one thing that this film does do a lot, and at the end of the first film, Gwen Stacy's dad, of course, dies, and he's like, stay away from her, but actually in the comics he says protect her. So when he does that, of course when he dies, Peter still feels guilty. He still feels, like in the first film he breaks his promise to stay away from her, instead he's with her now. And he sees her reflection, his reflection of the dad, looking at him, and like that distracts him. So when he finally does what he does, he freaking pantses the Rhino, and webs up everything, and his machine gun he threw in the air, when he picks up the last bottle of the experiment stuff, it hits Rhino in the head, and it was just so funny. So he swings by, and he gets in his cap and gown, but he's still wearing the Spider-Man mask, and it's pretty funny. And he doesn't get there to Gwen's speech. When he gets there, it's right when he gets called to the podium for his diploma. And so then, we get all this bond between Emma Stone and Gwen Stacy. And the dialogue between Emma Stone and Gwen Stacy, not Emma Stone, they're the same person. Between Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield is really good. And I actually didn't know this, but Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone are actually dating in real life. And I was like, huh. That explains why they have such a good chemistry together. They are phenomenal actors, and the fact that they can pull off Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy perfectly to a T, that tells you something right there. A lot of people told me that they don't think Andrew Garfield's a good Spider-Man. He acts nothing like Peter Parker. Yeah, he does. I mean, yeah, he's not dressed up like a nerd like how he was in the old TV show or in the comics. It's a new look. It's kind of a combination between the old Spider-Man and the Ultimate series. Spider-Man's in high school. Of course, so he just graduated, so they're going along with more. But I'm getting off point. So, they do bring up some stuff about Uncle Ben. Now, unfortunately, Uncle Ben's killer is not seen in the second film, which was a disappointment, but I honestly didn't really care. I was kind of hoping that they would touch on it, but when I just started the film, I totally forgot about it, to be honest with you. But, when he goes and talks to his Aunt May, they're like, I'm proud of you. I'm sure, I wish your Uncle Ben could be here, and your parents. And so then we get an introduction to Harry Osborn in this film. Now, I love Harry Osborn. Peter's best friend eventually becomes a Green Goblin. I was really having hope for this actor, the guy who plays him in this film. He played in the movie Chronicle. He's played a good villain before. I had really high hopes for this guy, but unfortunately, his dialogue is so bland, it made me angry as soon as he started talking. As soon as he started talking, I couldn't stand this guy. And I was just thinking, is it the actor, or is it the dialogue? Because the actor, just for some reason, the words he says, it's in a tone like he doesn't care. When he sees Peter after 16 years, or 6 years, or how many ever years, 10 years or something, he's just like, oh, hey Peter, how you doing? Instead of like and I'm comparing this to Spider-Man 2, when Harry sees Peter at the beginning of the film, he reacts like how any friend was, like, hey buddy, how you doing? You haven't returned my calls. How you been? Like an actual best friend. I mean, they do explain though that like apparently Harry is dying to a disease that his dad has. No, it's not leprosy. One of my friends made a comment about that, but it's some kind of disease that starts at 16, and eventually Norman does die. So Harry is given the role of Oscorp. And unfortunately, the people do not like that. They do not like that Harry is running Oscorp. Now, as I'm talking about all the other characters, there is one character that I loved in this film, and probably the best in the film, Electro, aka Max Dillon. And we do get an introduction to him at the beginning of the film. They set it up right. He's walking around with Oscorp plans, and during the beginning fight scene with the Rhino, Spider-Man saves him, and that's how he's like, you're Spider-Man, you saved me. He's like, yeah, costume gives it away, huh, Max? How do you know my name? Your badge, Oscorp. And he's like, no one knows who I am. I'm a nobody. So then, like, Spider-Man gives him hope. It's like, you're my eyes and ears out here. I'll see you out there. And so that gives Max Dillon hope. The Max Dillon character that they're going with this is like the Max Dillon character they had. Oh, where is it when I need it? They kind of made him like they had him in this series. Because in this series, Max Dillon is just someone who goes to college. He gets constantly picked on. But like, this is when he's an adult, not in high school. But he's a genius with electricity and just all that other stuff. But he lets it go to his head that Spider-Man saved him, and he's like, it's my birthday. Spider-Man saved me. And we find out that this guy's obsessed with Spider-Man. Having, like, pictures on his wall, talking to him through the mirror and stuff like that, and doing his voice and talking to him back and forth. Max loves Spider-Man. And so they do this character really well. When he becomes Electro, oh my gosh, Jamie Foxx did a phenomenal job as Electro, playing the I'm a loner, nobody cares about me, and then when he finally gets power, oh, does it go to his head. Extremely. When he becomes Electro, when he fights Spider-Man in Times Square, he's like, I have so much anger. And then all of a sudden, like, when the people start shooting at him, he goes crazy, and Spider-Man has no choice but to fight him. So we do get some very good action from Electro, from Jamie Foxx, as this villain. And they do have this on and off relationship going between Peter and Gwen Stacy. Peter is like, I seen him again today. You know, it's tearing Peter up because he's afraid that he's going to lose Gwen. But, excuse me, but Gwen's like, I don't care. It's my decision. But Peter's like, I can't let you make that decision. You know, if I lose you, it's my fault. You know, he's the hero, you know, the hero who loses the girl that he loves. You know, Peter's afraid of that happening, but Gwen doesn't care. But now, she does say that Peter's been doing this on and off, so she breaks up with him instead. And we get most of the film, Peter looking at her when he's Spider-Man, and Gwen comes to Peter when they hang out again, and she's like, I got accepted into Oxford, and I really want to go. And so they have a talk, and then that's when the whole Electro thing starts going down. You know, like, he's sucking electricity, and that's one thing that they do have Electro with, is the more electricity he absorbs, the more powerful he becomes. So, you know, of course, you know, Spider-Man comes in, he's like, yo, Sparkles! And Electro's like, you don't remember him. He's like, no, why would I? You don't remember me, you saved me, the guy with the blueprints. Oh, right, what's your name again? Oh, don't tell me, I know it, it's Max. Is it Max? And, you know, like, at first, you know, they make it look like Peter just doesn't care, but he says, I didn't recognize you, are you okay? And he's like, I have so much anger. And then everyone starts shooting at him. Spider-Man even says, don't shoot at him. And then it just gets crazy. When a news guy puts his camera on Spider-Man, Electro's like, you lied to me. They're all looking at you. You lied to me. And then we get this fight between Electro and Spider-Man. And, like, you know, like, Spider-Man, like, does this web shooting, and it zaps him, and he gets thrown into the car. When he first comes in, Electro throws a car, and Spider-Man comes in and catches the car. And, it's a really good fight scene, you know, like, and once again, they do show how smart Peter is, because what's hilarious is he actually has to use a water hose from a fireman to take him out. And so they take him to Ravencroft, which is the Arkham City of New York, of the Spider-Man universe. They made Dr. Kafka, the girl who was in love with Kraven the Hunter, who helped Peter work with his disease he was going through that gave him the man-spider trouble. He's in this film, except Dr. Kafka's a dude. But, like, he's doing experiments on Electro, and Electro's like, you better kill me or else I'm going to show you who I am. I'm Electro, blah, 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 blah. We do get another character in this film, another side character, and they do so well with morphing all these side characters in. Felicia Hardy is in this film. Now, she's not Black Cat. She does not talk to Peter at all or nothing. She has more something with Harry Osborn, because he was his dad's assistant, and so he's like, you're my assistant now. I want you to give everything on file, blah, 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 blah. So when Gwen goes to Oscorp, because that's where she works now, she looks up about Max Dillon. And everyone's basically trying to make sure this guy was a nobody, some stuff that happened, he was there last night. Make sure he stays gone. Make sure he just stays gone. And, you know, Gwen starts looking and they start chasing after her. And this was another funny scene with her and Peter. Peter's like, Gwen, we're in a closet. This is like the most cliche of hiding places. And Gwen's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't take us to the Bahamas of hiding places. So they get out of the closet, and Peter shoots a web and, like, you know, spills coffee on one guy and accidentally ties the guy's shoes. Like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so very sorry. And then when he walks away, he does like this little... And it's just so funny. The dialogue with Peter is funny. And the excuses that he uses with his Aunt May is so funny. When he gets back from doing some Spider-Man stuff, his aunt's like, "Come on, Peter, you gotta take me to work." "What's wrong with your face? It's filthy." "I was cleaning the chimney." "We have no chimney." What? The excuses are very funny. And when Peter first gets done fighting Electro, you know, he all of a sudden, one of his web shooters gets destroyed. And it's like he starts looking up on how to make his web to where his web shooters won't get destroyed. And we get some very funny experiments. You know, he gets a bigger battery, a bigger battery, a bigger battery, a bigger battery. And every time he gets a bigger battery, he has to put on more clothing. There's one time I think he had a scuba suit or something like that on. And like it shocks him and it sets his web on fire. And then when he gets a call from Harry Osborn, he was sleeping up in the corner or something, and he web swings and he freaking hits himself in the head. We do get some more stuff about Peter with his dad. You know, his mom was basically like, you know, your dad was one of those people who just went to work every day, blah, 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 blah. And Peter's still wanting to know about his dad. And the dialogue between Harry Osborn and Peter is really good. You know, it's like, "How have you been? You know, I know what you're going through." And Peter goes to talk to Harry in the first place when Norman dies. You know, you're wanting to comfort your best friend. You know, you're like, "Hey, I know what you're going through." So they do have some good friend talk, but just the dialogue with Harry Osborn is just so bland and boring. I don't hate the actor. I just hate what they did to the character. Because James Franco, I mean, I'm sorry, this guy is a great actor, but James Franco's version of Harry Osborn, in my opinion, was a much better Harry Osborn. Because the dialogue wasn't bland. It was fine. I don't know why this Harry Osborn's dialect was so bland. It's either the dialect or the actor. I don't know. But, you know, they talk about, like, you know, Gwen and girls and stuff, and Harry meets Gwen eventually. And then we do get some more stuff with Aunt May of how she's like, "You're my boy. He left you on my doorstep." And he's like, "I'm your boy. Nothing's ever going to change that, but you need to tell me." And she's like, "Okay, but it's going to hurt you." And they find out that a Secret Service or the CIA or whatever came to their door and saying, "Do you know where Richard Parker is? Blah, 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 blah." Norman Osborn framed him because Peter's dad thought that the stuff with the spider venom, because they're working on curing cancer and stuff like that and curing Norman Osborn, but the spider venom they thought was too dangerous, so Richard, being responsible, was like, "I've got to shut this down, this could make things worse." And Norman was desperate, so he had Peter's father and mother killed. So basically Peter is more angry at his dad than he's ever been. He makes like a wall of like stuff like detectives do or something, and you know, when he finally figures out the truth when he figures out what his Aunt May tells him, he gets angry and he just destroys all of it, and he's never been so angry. And we do get more of back and forth between Gwen and Peter, and they do eventually get back together. But Gwen calls him and leaves him a message saying, "I'm going to England. You know, I think this would just be better instead of doing it face to face. You know, there's a lot of reasons that we shouldn't be together." And so that upsets Peter. So what does he do? Being the awesome man that he is, he swings on one of the bridges and writes, "I love you" in the web. And then he picks up Gwen. And Peter's like, "I'm going to follow you to England. There's a lot of reasons we shouldn't be together, but hey, I'm tired of them." And so Harry gets kicked out of Oscorp because the people are like, "We can't have Harry be in control of Oscorp. He's a kid. He shouldn't be in control of Oscorp." They were wanting control of Oscorp. They didn't like that Harry is in control now. So what they do is when Harry looks up stuff with Max Dillon, they frame him and get him fired, and they wanted to take over the company. So then, what does Harry do? Harry goes to Ravencroft, friends with Electro. Electro puts Dr. Kafka in the experiment that they were doing with Electro and puts him underwater and I guess drowning him. They give Electro a new suit. And the reason why Electro works with Harry is Harry's like, "I need you, Max. You need me." And then Max and Harry confront the guy who framed him, and he's like, "Now, you're going to take me to Oscorp, the bottom, and you're going to show me what you've been working on." And then Electro goes to the power grid, which is awesome. They finally give us Electro's